Welcome to Fun Factory Gaming. Hades 2 is a direct sequel to the superbly received roguelike, which was released on PC and Switch in September 2020, and on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S less than 12 months later. The game was developed by the Supergiant Games studio responsible for the original, for which this is the first sequel in their portfolio. The action takes place sometime after the events of the first part. The two titles are strongly connected, but the developers assure that knowledge of the original is not necessary to be able to understand the plot of the sequel. Unlike the first part of the series, the protagonist is not the son of the title god of the underworld, Zagreus, but his sister, a princess of the underworld named Milanoe. Like her brother, she cannot be permanently killed, so that after each death she comes back to life. The location of the action has also changed. For Milanoe must leave the realm of the underworld and set out on a mission to kill Kronos, the Titan of Time, who is also her grandfather, who escaped from a prison located in the depths of the underworld to start a war with Olympus. Hades' daughter must find him and stop him. Hundreds of minor opponents, as well as powerful bosses, stand in her way. To fight them, Milanoe uses both a rich arsenal of shadowy weapons, as well as deadly skills and dark magic. In learning the arcana of the latter, the princess of the underworld is assisted by Hecate, the goddess of darkness, sorcery, supernatural phenomena, and crossroads, known from Greek mythology. In terms of gameplay, Hades 2 is very similar to the original. The game's action is shown in an isometric view. The player begins each approach in a safe starting location, where he can select equipment and skills. After leaving it on the other hand, he traverses successive arenas, in most of them fighting hordes of enemies. Passing each chamber is rewarded with special powers, health upgrades, gold, etc. The powers mentioned are mainly derived from gods and goddesses known from Greek mythology. In Hades 2 there are more than a dozen of them, like for example, Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, Aphrodite, Artemis, Ares, Dionysus, Hermes, and Demeter, known from the first game, but there are also new characters, such as the god of light, Apollo. After each death, the player returns to the initial location and must start the game from the beginning, as it were, because some of the progress, following the pattern of the first game, is retained. In Hades 2 both every success and every failure are rewarded in their own way. In addition, they advance the game's plot, as after death Milanoe can meet different NPCs than in the previous attempt. Some of them, such as Moros and Dora, we meet for the first time in the series. However, there is no shortage of some familiar faces from the first Hades. Like the protagonist of the first game, Zagreus, his sister Milanoe was not invented by the developers from the Supergiant Games studio. Her name appears in Orphic hymns, as well as on a certain metal tablet, where Persephone is also mentioned. The developers felt that the mythological sources sufficiently link Milanoe to the realm of Hades, so they were able to take this theme into the game and fit it into their own vision. Interestingly, the character is often described in similar terms to the aforementioned Hecate or Erinas, Greek goddesses personifying vengeance, punishment, and remorse. Graphics in Hades 2 are very similar to that of the original. The soundtrack of the title has also been kept in a similar climate, again the responsibility of Darren Korb and Ashley Barrett. Supergiant Games Studio began production of the game shortly after the release of the first Hades on PC and Switch. However, work on it did not start in full swing until early 2021. The basics of the gameplay are practically the same. Playing as Milanoe, we traverse randomly generated levels, defeating enemies with the divine gifts acquired during the journey. The protagonist of the sequel is a witch. This implies that she uses her own magic in battle, rather than just weapons like Zagreus, and has the ability to gather resources in the underworld for later use in a secure location. The game introduces new character upgrade mechanics that weren't present in the first installment, such as the Altar of Ashes, where players can use previously obtained ashes to discover new cards with benefits, and casting spells using a pot. Just like with Zagreus, the Olympian gods will help Milanoe in battles, but relationships with them need to be built from scratch. Hades 2 will see the comeback of characters like Demeter, Hypnos, and Charon, as well as the introduction of new heroes inspired by those from the first game. Understanding the story in Hades 2 doesn't require knowledge of ancient legends or even the original, despite the multitude of characters from Greek mythology, as emphasized by the devs. It is noticeable that the graphic design is practically the same as in Hades, nevertheless altering the setting, the appearance of familiar characters, or the soundtrack gives the sequel a somewhat distinctive style. Hades 2 will be released in early access on Steam and the Epic Games Store in the second quarter of 2024. Hope you enjoyed my video. Stay tuned to Fun Factory TV for many new gaming videos. Thank you for your support and friendship.